Hi, this is Rob. I'm going to be showing you how to do the exercises that go along with the video lesson, converting any fraction. Are you ready? Let's go. For our first problem, we need to convert the fraction 4 over 5 into a decimal by dividing. So as you remember from our video, 4 over 5 is the same as 4 divided by 5. But to work it out on paper, it's better to rewrite it in this form using this division symbol. So we have 4 divided by 5. All right, so the first thing we can see is that 5 is too big to go into 4, so that means we need to use decimal division. And to do that, we put a decimal point, and that lets us put a 0 in the tenths place, and as many times as we need to, because 4.0 is the same value as 4. All right, so now we treat it as if it's 5 goes into 40. So how many times does 5 go into 40? Well, 5 goes into 40 8 times. So let's write it 8. And we need to make sure to line it up above the 0 here because we're dividing into the 40, not just the 4 anymore. All right. So now we do the next step of our division procedure. So we go 8 times 5. 8 times 5 is 40. We write that down underneath here, and we subtract it to prove that we have no remainder. Now, it almost looks like we're done, but don't forget we're doing decimal division. We added this decimal point here, and so we need to carry that decimal point up into our answer. And then so it looks better, we put a 0 in front of it, so it reads 0.8, and we don't forget about the decimal point there. All right, so 4 divided by 5, 4 over 5 equals 0.8. For our next problem, we need to convert the fraction 1 over 6 into a decimal by dividing. So we need to rewrite it using our division symbol that lets us do the division procedure easier. So we have 1 divided by 6. And so looking at it this way, it's obvious to see that 6 is too big to divide into 1. So we need to use the decimal point and a 0 in the tenths place. So now we can treat it as if it's 6 goes into 10. And how many times does 6 go into 10? It goes in 1 time. And so be sure when you write your 1 in the answer line that it's above the digit, the ones place part of the digit that we're dividing up, and we're treating this as 10. So that would be the ones place digit of 10. So now we do 1 times 6. Put that down below the number we're dividing up. Subtract it. So 10 minus 6 equals 4. And so that's a remainder. We're trying to get rid of the remainder. So we need to put another 0 after the decimal point, and we can bring down a copy of that to combine with our remainder. So now we have 6 goes into 40, and 6 goes into 40 6 times. So we put a 6 above this 0 we just added. So now we do 6 times 6 gives us 36. And then we subtract that from the 40. So 40 minus 36 equals 4. Now, since we have the same remainder that we did up here, if you're familiar with the way repeating patterns work, you already know that this is a repeating pattern. But I'm going to do one more step to make it even more clear. So we add another 0, and we bring down a copy of that 0 here. So now we have 40 again. So we're asking how many times does 6 go into 40? And of course, it's going to be the same answer that we got before. It's going to be 6. So 6 times 6, once again, is going to be 36. And see, we're going to get 4 again. And each time we do this, we're going to keep getting 4 as a remainder and 6 in the answer line. So we're going to end up with 6's going on forever. So that means that the 6 portion of this answer repeats. And so I will show you how to write that in just a second. But before we do that, we need to remember that we put this decimal point in there, so we need to put it in our answer as well. And we put a 0 here so it reads better. So 1 over 6, the decimal value of 1 over 6 is 0.16, and the 6 repeats. We put the line above the 6 to show that the 6 repeats. We would keep getting 6's forever if we continued this division problem. And now we need to convert the fraction 5 over 12 into a decimal. So let's rewrite it using our better division symbol. So we have 5 divided by 12. All right. And it's clear to see that 12 is too big to go into 5, so we need to put in a decimal point and a 0. So now let's ask how many times does 12 go into 50? It goes into 50 4 times, so we write 4 directly above that 0 we added. So 4 times 12 equals 48. And we subtract that from 50. So 50 minus 48 equals 2. And so we need to keep going because we don't have a remainder of 0 and we don't have a repeating pattern. So we put another 0 here, bring a copy of it down. So 12 goes into 20. How many times? Once. Directly above the digits we added in. All right. 1 times 12 is 12. All right. Subtract that. So 20 minus 12 is 8. So we don't have a repeating pattern yet. Add another 0. Bring a copy of it down here. So now 12 goes into 80. How many times? 12 goes into 86 times. Here, let me extend this division symbol a little bit. All right. So 6 times 12 is 72. You can see why it's so helpful to memorize your multiplication table, can't you? All right. So now we subtract the 72 from that 80. All right. 80 minus 72 is 8. Oh, we have the same remainder here going. It looks like we might have a repeating pattern. Let's double check. Well, of course, I'm running out of room, so here, let me slide this up. Hopefully that doesn't mess anything up. All right, bring down a copy of that 0. So now we're asking how many times does 12 go into 80 again. So we're going to get the same answer. Going to get a 6 again. 6 times 12 is going to be 72 again. And 80 minus 72 is 8. And you can see now that that's going to keep repeating forever. No matter how many times we try it, we're going to keep getting 6s. All right, so it's time to rewrite it in our answer line, except we can't forget to put our decimal point up there and the 0 so it's easier to read. So we put 0.416, and we only have to write one of the 6s, but we put a line over the 6 to show that it repeats. So the fraction 5 over 12 is equal to the decimal 0.41 with the 6 repeating. For our next problem, we need to convert the fraction 8 over 11 into its decimal form by dividing. So let's rewrite it. Put our division symbol, put in 8 and our 11. So we have 8 divided by 11, just like the fraction, 8 over 11. And it's pretty clear that 11 is too big to go into 8. So we need to put in our decimal point and the 0. And now we're asking, how many times does 11 go into 80? And 11 goes into 80 7 times. Make sure you have this lined up nice and neat. All right, and then 7 times 11 is 77. And we subtract that. And I better start writing smaller so I can fit all this in. All right, so we have 80 minus 77 equals 3. All right, so we need to keep on going because we have a remainder but not a repeating pattern. So we put in another 0, and then we bring a copy of that down. So now we're asking how many times does 11 go into 30? 11 goes into 30 2 times. So 2 times 11 equals 22. Subtract that. So 30 minus 22 equals 8. All right, so we don't have a repeating pattern yet, so we need to add another 0. Bring a copy of it down. So now we're asking how many times does 11 go into 80? Well, that's what we were asking when we started, huh? So we might be seeing a repeating pattern here. All right. So, and 11 goes into 80 7 times. 7 times 11, 77. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? All right. 80 minus 77 equals 3. How many times does 11 go into 30? Oh, see, I put in the 0 before I even put in the 0 after the decimal point. That's easy to do once you get really used to it, but it's a good idea to keep putting in the zeros. So put the 0 in there, bring a copy of it down. 11 goes into 30 2 times. 2 times 11 equals 22. 30 minus 22 equals 8. So, oh, it went off the page. Sorry about that. So now you can see there's 2 digits that repeat instead of just 1 digit. So, but 7272, that's going to keep on happening all the time. Like if we kept going, we'd be asking how many times does 11 go into 80? And we've already asked that question twice, and we're going to keep getting the same answer. So that means these two digits, 7272, those repeat forever. All right, so as always, remember to bring up the decimal point, and we'll put in a 0 so it's easier to read. And now when you write out your final answer, 0.72, the line that shows a repeat needs to go over both digits. It needs to be clear that both digits repeat. All right, so the decimal value of 8 over 11 equals 0.72 repeating. For our final problem, we need to find the decimal value of 22 over 95, and this time we get to use a calculator. And the exercise also says to round off to 3 decimal places. So that means we don't have to write all the digits that it shows in the answer. All right, so 22 over 95 is the same as 22 divided by 95. And the way you do that on a calculator is you put 2 for 22, divided by, hit the divided by symbol there, and then 95, and then you hit the equals button. So now we have 0 point, and sometimes in a calculator it's hard to see the decimal point, so it's a good thing that they follow the rule of putting a 0 in front of the decimal point, so that helps it be more noticeable. So we have 0.231579. Now remember, the exercise said that we need to round it to 3 decimal places. So you might think, looking at that, you might think that the answer would be 0.231. But because of the way rounding rules work, we need to round it up because the digit after that digit is 5. And anything 5 or greater, you round up. Anything less than 5, you round down. So like if that digit after was a 3, if it was 2313, whatever, then you would put 231. But since it's 5 or greater, put 232. All right, so we round that digit up. The 1 becomes a 2. So 0.232 is the decimal value rounded to 3 places of the fraction 22 over 95.